May 8th, I went to the gym, as I usually do in the morning, 5 in the morning. Noticed I was a little out of breath, but I didn't think anything of it. I just thought maybe I'm just tired. I didn't go to bed too early that night before. So anyway, I wanted to have my time with God as I usually do, got ready, got to the office, and was getting ready for our staff meeting when I went to go outside to take a phone call. And as I walked outside, all of a sudden, the entire room started turning black. And I realized if I don't move quickly and get back in the office, I'm gonna faint here in the middle of the street. Told the person I was on the phone to call my wife and let her know that I was gonna have to call 911. The best way that I can describe it is like one of the biggest fears came over me, like you're gonna die. So I said a prayer, and as they do the EKGs and all the tests, they're realizing that I'm fine. And it was in that CT scan that the doctor found out, I've heard of you, but I've never seen you. And I said, what does that mean, doctor? And he says, well, you see, you were born with a very unique heart, and 0.019% of the population is born with your heart. And roughly 60% of the people who have your heart, we find it in an autopsy. And he said, the reason why is because you're asymptomatic. Your heart is perfectly fine. For every other test, you are perfectly healthy. But your right artery, rather than being on the right side of your heart, is wedged in between your left. And so anytime you work out or do anything, it's pressing up against the actual right artery. And you could literally at any moment just drop dead. So they were amazed that I didn't die in my 20s. And so that was the moment that I had to face. In the beginning, it was panic. I mean, I literally had fear that was overwhelming. I felt my heart beating faster. But as I began to pray, I started thinking about a specific verse in the book of Psalms 91. That began to give me peace because I felt like I had a promise directly from God that everything was going to be okay. And the moment that I actually felt that verse in my mind, that's when peace started surrounding me, and I felt safe. I felt like everything was going to be okay. You know, this whole experience has completely changed my life. Perspective has been completely shifted. But you know, one of the things, I want to go back because in this whole thing, while I was in the hospital, I clearly, as I'm waiting for doctors and specialists, I had the opportunity to go back to my journal, that I journal every single morning when I spend time with God. And what was interesting is that on January 12th of 2023, months and months before this whole thing happened, I was doing a journal entry, and I have a section in my journal where I say, listen, which is basically, Lord, what do you want to tell me? And pretty much whatever begins to come to mind, I'll just write. Believe it or not, I'll have to show you the actual journal entry. But it literally said that I am going to heal your heart. And I am going to do things to restore your heart and to literally fix the things that are really holding you back from being a part of me. And so as if that wasn't supernatural as it is, I clearly didn't think it was my physical heart that they were going to fix. That same day, I got a phone call about 3 hours later from the time of that journal. And it was the pastor from my church who called. And he asked me to be one of the speakers at the men's summit, which was going to happen April or May. At the time, they didn't even have the date. And I actually notated that in the journal because what was really interesting is, you look now when this happened in May, I was scheduled to speak at the men's summit the following week of when I had this heart issue. In January, I have a God experience that says, I'm going to heal your heart. That same day, I get an invitation to go speak at a men's summit in May. So fast forward to May, that day in my journal entry, I wrote something specifically about health without even knowing that I was about to have this issue. And yet, the week before the summit, I'm having heart surgery, dealing with my heart. And on day 8 after the surgery, by God's grace, I got to speak at the men's summit to encourage people on living with purpose, having balance in their life, and sharing my new perspective and just a view of how we need to really appreciate life and live it to the fullest.